Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Glad to have you here. Today we have another grudge match between the Wood Elves and the Beastmen. Um, Man, this matchup. Um, I've started defaulting actually to the War Herd of the Shadowgrave. Um, I've started that's when I enter a quick battle, that's what I hop to, because I very much am tired of fighting the Wood Elves. It's like every single match, they always want to play the Wood Elves. And so this is kind of the best army I've figured and made up that can deal with these guys pretty effectively and easily. Um, just because of how fast everybody moves in the Beastmen roster. Um, I think they have I think they are like a good counter pick to the Wood Elves. And the only issue is if they bring like a completely melee tree army, then you can have a hard time. But even then, if you play it right and you get rear charges here with the Centaurs with great weapons, you can pull it out, though it is kind of difficult. So yeah, I have a main line here of Goreherd, supported with the Gorebull and Morger, the Shadow, with the Shadowgave. What is a Shadowgave? I don't know. And I've got my Lore of Beasts here. Again, my typical Beastman build, but in the back I have a lot more reserves here. I have 2 Ungor Spearmen and an Ungor Herd. Hopefully I'll be able to thread them through my own line to help support the rear line fight. On each side I have a spear, and I have a Centaur with shields in front, definitely for fighting archers, and I have a Centaur with great weapons in the back for fighting anything else, or any big flying units on the field. I have 2 Ungor Raiders, and the Wood Elves here have 5 Glade Guard with Starfire Shafts. I don't know about this pick against the Beastmen. Not many Beastmen players here pick Bestigor Herd, or really Minotaurs against the Elves. I don't think they're a good pick. So I think you're far better off going with Hagbane tips, or just going with the cheaper variant of nothing added. There's just not a lot of armor on the Beastmen roster, and you might be able to afford some more protection for those archers if you go cheaper. Behind them, he has a main line of Eternal Guard with shields. I like this pick. The shields give them a larger amount of staying power in combat, which I think is very important for these guys. I think it's worth the extra cash. Here he has a Branch Wraith. Very great unit. Earthblood and some other abilities that come in handy. And he's actually a decent melee combatant. And he has that 20% resistance to physical attacks, which keeps him alive a little bit longer. In the air, he has a Eagle and a Glade Lord here on her dragon. And in the forest, hidden, he has 2 Wild Riders with shields. Man, this is probably my favorite unit model in the whole game. The way they run, and just the way they play. I love those cavalry. Maybe if other people didn't play as much Wood Elves, I might play some myself. But I tend to avoid them in the current state of quick battle. So here I'm going to move my line over to match. I'm going to move my cavalry over, thinking that why he was hugging this wall was so he could, only have to defend one flank. But he ends up actually moving back towards the center. I love this unit. Definitely, I think they are really only good against trees in the elf roster. There's just not a lot of armor for them to armor pierce. But I still bring them because the treekin are so amazingly strong. You kind of need something to help take them out. So when I see he's kind of moving back, I'm going to move my Centaurs back over here And as long as he's not moving his Glade Lord out in the front to Arrows of Kurnos me, I'm perfectly content with sitting back here and waiting for Murger to charge his abilities. But as I say this, of course, here he comes. So I'm going to head forward a little bit. He's going to shoot right at Gorbol. I love that everybody goes for Gorbol rather than Morgur. Just because Morgur is so tanky, I want to keep as much of his regen available as possible. And, you know, they can totally fight Gorbol. That's fine. Gorbol's tough. And if he dies, it's not the biggest blow here to my army. He's really just there to help punish any heroes that he has on the ground, and just be a fast-moving encourage aura, essentially. Here he's gonna open fire here on my Gore Herd, but they have shields, and they're cheap, and I don't really mind if they die. So, I'm gonna be moving up. I have one Centaur back here. I have my great weapons in the back here in case this guy decides to land on my archers. And I'm going to just start initiating a general charge here. I'm going to cast Flock of Doom here in the middle, weaken those guys up. Considerable damage here to this unit, but it's not the worst. He is kind of on the hill, but he's far enough back on the hill that I don't think the uphill advantage is going to be too much in his favor. My two Ungor Raiders here are going to all they do all game is I've just had them right-clicked here on this Glade Lord. Prey of Enrathema here on this guy. I get a great side charge here on this Eternal Guard, which is going to be really helpful to me. I'm going to move my Spearmen around here, and I'm going to try and deal with these Wild Riders, which will allow my Centaurs on this flank to charge into these Gore Herd. Here you can see my Chaos Spawn tearing themselves out of the ground, and I'm going to send them straight at these archers here, try and get them off the field. I haven't activated my reserves yet, and at this point I've kind of realized that my Bestigors he's not really planning on landing. He would have if he was going to by now, so I'm going to bring Morgur in here to help break the line. I'm going to move these Bestigor around here, and I'm going to slowly fill in with my reserves here when it becomes necessary. This guy finally freed up from the Prey of Enrathema, which is good. Here I'm going to get a great charge against these Wild Riders. I'm going to lose, but I'm going to trap them here for my Spearmen to attack, and then I'm going to rear charge them here with my Centaurs. Just trying to get this 1200 gold unit off the field as quick as possible. Still firing here. I think he's forgotten about this eagle here in the middle, and that's perfectly fine for me. And I'm going to charge my Bray Shaman here into the back of this Glade Guard to just stop him from firing. One of my favorite tactics. Here you can see I finally finished off the Wild Riders. I'm going to bring my Centaurs over into this blob here. My Chaos Spawn here are in against the Wild Riders, and they're going to do great in that fight as long as I keep the arrows off of them. And so here you can see my Bestigors finally coming around. All this movement and all that high attack, high damage, cheap front line is really what's going to make this army almost the perfect counter to a Wood Elf army. There's just everybody's fast. It's harder to kite. We have cheap anti-large stuff in the form of the Ungor Raiders. Cheap Spearmen here with the Ungor Spear Herd. Ooh, sorry. Flock of Doom never hurts, and I could spawn Chaos Spawn in the back lines, which is amazing. So this is the army I tend to bring whenever I'm fighting against the Wood Elves, just because anything else, I just find myself getting torn apart slowly. Very, very slowly. It is, for me at least, it's not my kind of favorite playstyle. You see a lot of my armies are very rush heavy, and that's kind of just what I find enjoyable. And no, like, you know, Wood Elves are not, I'm not mad if you play the Wood Elves. Like, of course, they're a faction, and I think they're a lot of fun. They're interesting. They add a new, like, layer of, like, concepts, I guess, to the game, and they're great. But, hey, I'm just going to bring a faster melee rush army. um, and I'm sure there's definitely ways here you can beat these guys as the wood elves. They just take a little bit too much micromanagement for me. But yeah, I definitely like this army here. Um, yeah, I probably would have foregone the Great Eagle, gone Hawk Riders, so you can rear charge really easily and keep the Wild Riders here to guard your back lines from Centigores. And then definitely just, yeah, gone cheaper here on these Glade Guard, and then gotten a little bit more troops here. Maybe gone with Treekin instead of Eternal Guard, but that does make it a little bit more expensive. Anyways, good game to my opponent, and that's that.